Pokemon has done it again. The world is burning after the new trailer of Legends CEA for a wide variety of reasons, like the coolest protagonist since Kool-Aid, the generational leap of its graphics going from 3DS to new 3DS, a real-time combat system that promises to reduce the lifespan of Nuzlocke players, but nothing has caused more of a stir than the starters. And it's not for nothing, because it's not just a trio that no one on the face of the earth could have predicted. The fact is that we have confirmed once again that Pokemon is committed to breaking all expectations and being as unpredictable as possible. Since Pokemon Black and White 2 came out in 2012 instead of Pokemon Gray, no one has been able to anticipate a move from this folks, even by chance. In this case, they deliberately left out any starter remotely related to France, breaking radically with the pattern established in the first Legends and its Japanese-influenced starters in line with Hisui. They also repeated the region of 2 starters. You could easily think that they are laughing at the predictions of Poketubers and leakers, but something nobody is considering is that Pokemon X and Y, emulating the 2 lines of an axis, were the first games where we could choose between 2 sets of starters. Well, if we don't include Emerald, of course, because you could also get the Johto starters there, but you almost had to make a deal with the devil to receive them. In X and Y, we could actually find a pair of functional starter trios for the main adventure, and right in Lumio City, you could get one of the starters of the first generation right at the start of the game, and they actually had their own Mega Evolutions as opposed to the actual starters of the game, so I couldn't dismiss at all that the community's rumored starters, Piplup, Snivy, and Scorbunny or Torchic, could have their time to shine as the second trio, or even be the ones who get Mega Evolutions, leaving the main starters simply with regional final evolution stages that are more in line with the culture of the region. We could even get the Kalos starters as a secondary trio to use Mega Evolution backwards and forwards. However, while I personally appreciate that they are playing around and messing with the expectations of people, I would prefer if at least in this case they stayed logical and conventional. They really need to spoil this 3 because the occasion calls for it. Are they really going to miss the chance to redeem and let 2 of the most unfairly underrated starters, Tepig and Chikorita, shine competitively? Are they gonna steal my inner child's dream of a real Mega Feraligatr? Will they miss the chance to make through the prophecy of Mega Meganium? I will sing a Digimon cover in the run. Anyway, as much as the chosen starters have been a full-fledged low blow to leakers, theories, YouTubers, and smarty pants in general, the theories and rumors of the community will not cease. And one of the hidden details related to this could be in Chikorita. Watch out for this creature, because with the new combat system it may be the most broken starter of the game, but one detail that has been making people talk is that the little peer is shown using Disarming Voice in the trailer, a fairy type move that Chikorita has never been able to learn, and as a general rule, Game Freak does that thing of adding a new move of a certain elemental type to a Pokemon in its first levels, when it's going to have a new form with that type. Add to this the fact that Meganium's line has been based all this time on aromatherapy. There you have it. Clearly they are hinting that the image so often portrayed in fan arts and community speculation of a fairy type Mega Meganium that is the greatest healing specialist that the franchise has ever seen is actually going to be a reality. Will it end up happening, or will it be a new twist on something that seemed obvious just for it to end up as something unexpected? Who knows? But since they are clearly trying to mislead us, and at this point it's impossible to know what they are planning, we can indulge in the exercise of being somewhat traditional to try to imagine how the final regional stages of this Pokemon could fit in France. Colossian Meganium could be inspired by herbal medicine and French perfumery. France is famous for its perfume industry, especially in grass. The world's capital of perfume. Meganium is already linked to aromatherapy, so they could reinforce this by giving their floral design some references from ancient perfumes or herbal remedies. If that disarming voice ends up being just a bait and for whatever reason they make it grass poison, it could have a medieval alchemist or healer vibe, using medicinal plants but with possible side effects. Totodile could push for a new reform in the penal code, as it's going to be quite illegal not to pick him, but Colossian Feraligatr could be Water Rock and take inspiration from the gargoyles of Notre Dame. Yeah, I know, the only connection to the rock type we've seen in the trailer is this baby alligator running for its life in a very cute way, but the truth is that it would feel like a glove if they came up with some sort of story for that final stage, like an ancient statue that comes to life in storms. Its design could include scales with a stone-like appearance. Another option could be the much anticipated Water Dark type, which Totodile's line has been hinting at since its debut, and some have been waiting for years. Just imagine a Feraligatr using Crunch with Stab. In that case, it could adopt a more wild style, as a nocturnal predator, set to lurk in the city's river and canals, based on the Beast of Gévaudan, a legendary monster that terrorized 18th century France. Anyway, Totodile will always be my little baby, so I hope the best for it. Embor, originally based on Sang Fei, a fierce warrior from Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Subacha, the pig demon from Journey to the West, may seem the most culturally disconnected to Kalos, but nothing could be further from the truth. As a boar warrior, it's actually the most appropriate of the three, to the point that I find it odd that it didn't make it into many lists of possible starters. Before the Roman conquest, the Celtic people of Gaul worshipped the wild boar as a symbol of war and courage. This even had a pagan god called Mokus, who resembled a wild boar. So the most logical thing would be to expect an Embor very similar to the current one, but changing its Chinese style to make it a brutal Gallic warrior, a kind of westernization opposite of what we saw with Hisuian Deathwight. Even its ability, Reckless, would make a lot of sense, as these warriors are characterized for not being afraid of taking damage during combat, making their flare blitz with no fear of recoil damage even more destructive. It seems so obvious that I rather doubt they would do it. So another possible way could be the sacred pigs of the Order of Saint Anthony in France, who had special rights to walk freely through the city unmolested. With this game placing so much emphasis on the urban development of Lumio City, I think it would also suit Embor quite well to go down the line of a mystical wandering pig, carrying a fire bell, like the bells carried by the pigs of the Order. Leaving aside the starters, the other big feature of the trailer that I would like to talk about is the story and characters of the game. Catching my attention, the unexpected return of AZ after having a limb-lengthening surgery in Turkey. He was huge, but this much? AZ was a king who, driven mad by war, sacrificed everything, millions of lives, and in the process acquired an immortality that could haunt him as an eternal reminder of his sins. His best friend left him due to its disappointment in him, and then, suddenly, after the most generic and out-of-context battle possible, Floette comes back and forgives him as if nothing had happened. Insert end credits here. Explain to me, what did that battle allegedly change for Floette to forgive AZ and return to his side? This was particularly bad because Pokemon X and Y are games quite in need of decisive moments with meaningful decisions that mark the story and make it less shallow. How can you explain that AZ was not given the necessary weight that the story was demanding for him? They did nothing with the deep themes tied to this character, such as the agony of immortality, sacrifice, and the power of encounters. I've always thought that those games must have been structured so that AZ inevitably inevitably had to sacrifice his life at the heart of the story, saving Kalos from another firing of the ultimate weapon, a mistake he would not be willing to have repeated, thus paying his debts and giving up his immortality. In this context, the moment of Floette's forgiveness, descending to meet its soul friend at the end of their lives so that they can both rest in peace, would be one of the most touching of the whole series. But none of that happened, and now it turns out he's back, with a game in part named after him, running a humble hotel in the city where the protagonist will stay and living a peaceful life with Floette. I guess we all assume that this is not going to stay like that and he will be a key character in the story. The fact that he looks like the typical nice butler who ends up being the bad guy doesn't help to clear suspicions, but the question is, can this neglected character redeem himself in such a title with his name on it? We should not forget that after X and Y, Lysander ended up missing. Everyone just assumes that he died after self-immolating with the remaining power of the ultimate weapon, but specifically in the X version, Lysander intended to use the shot to become immortal, so even if it seems unlikely, if he had gotten hit directly with the small amount of energy, he could have achieved it. Having this immortal Lysander back, facing an AZ that has experienced the pain of immortality and intends to erase all traces of it, and ends up sacrificing himself to close once and for all this dreadful episode of the history of Kalos, would be a worthy finale to the character, in which he at last has his redemption after his wasted potential in X and Y, although the fact that Arceus gave its name to the previous legends and barely intervened in the whole game is not very hopeful. I don't know who the villain of this game is going to be, but it's clear that the mayor of Lumio City could be quite shady, looking at the city's anti-homeless benches. The other characters that most caught my attention are the main protagonists, because their style hits harder than a baguette from the Kalos of 10 years ago in X and Y, but beyond of how hard their drip goes, some are linking them as possible descendants of the protagonist's mother and the professor's Sycamore. And to be honest, I don't know if I want to confirm the rumors about what the protagonist's mothers do with the professors while their child goes on their journey, but some of us automatically thought of Ethan and Lyra as soon as we saw them. This was obviously reinforced by the presence of the second generation starters, except for Typhlosion, who seems to have received the death penalty. The girl even looks somewhat like Silver to me. Oh god. It's hard to know where they are going with all this. It could be a future final release of Legends in an older Johto as theorized, or they could be trying to mix this version of Legends with elements of a Let's Go Johto, or it could just be another prank to those of us who are getting paranoid with our thoughts. Be as it may, it seems that something coming back for sure are the descendants of characters we know, as we saw in Hisui with the ancestors of Sinnoh. And if I could have one request with all of this, is that they make the most of this concept. For me, everything related to the story of Legends Arceus was quite disappointing, but without a doubt, the ancestors were one of the most wasted features. I was so excited when the first trailers revealed that we were going to meet the ancestors of some of our most beloved characters, and it was an amazing opportunity to learn more about them, but it was all wasted, with the obvious exception of a few of important characters in rather lame redesigns that were more like isolated references than interesting additions to their stories. I pray for Legends CA to do this better. This time period has even more potential. Excluding any possible surprises, it looks like the game is going to take place in a relatively near future Kalos, perhaps around a decade from now, as we see some notable developments, such as a more advanced versions of the Holocaster, but still similar technology to what was seen in X and Y. Maybe we could get to see the children of known characters following the legacy of their progenitors, or even the same characters from Kalos and other regions further expanding their stories, solving unresolved mysteries, or as with AZ, redeeming stories that didn't deliver as much as they could have. I'm fine with wherever it is, as long as it brings something to the table. I'm not ready to see the future children of these people doing even less than what they did. The best news is that the game is still cooking, and as we had expected, it won't see the light of day until the end of this year, which is the longest period between games in quite a while. Not long ago, it had seemed impossible with the demands of the franchise to keep the merchandising production machine and such going, so it really seems like they are going back to that original spirit of the series, making the mainline games the soul of the franchise and bringing a fresh perspective with each Pokemon experience to deliver their vision and tell their story regardless of what the audience is asking for. Pokemon entered our lives 29 years ago, and if Kalos and the entire franchise has proven something to us, it's how one encounter can mark us and change our lives in this world forever. That's all. Please follow me on social media to keep up to date with all my projects, as I hope to do very big things this year. And if you're still hungry for more, check out the video now on screen. Be nice.